Welcome to our video on consent. As educators, it is essential to recognize the importance of consent in the variety of relationships that we have with others. The goal is for discussions of consent to be regular and for all people to get used to asking for consent and to be comfortable with both saying no and accepting no as an answer. When initiating discussions on consent, it can be helpful to begin with boundaries. Each person has the right to their own boundaries and defining what those are, and we all have a responsibility to respect them. While issues of consent definitely exist in sexual relationships, consent issues also exist throughout life and make for very interesting discussions with students. To facilitate conversations about consent, we can refer to 5 key elements that must be present for any interaction to be consensual. These elements can be easily remembered by using the acronym FRIES. FRIES stands for F, freely given. Decisions about any activity should be made without pressure, force, intimidation, or under the influence of drugs or alcohol. R, reversible. Even if you have agreed to do something, you can change your mind, even during sex. Consent is ongoing and not a one-time thing. I, informed. Consent includes honesty in laying out the different aspects of the activity. E, enthusiastic. Consent should be enthusiastic and stated using a verbal yes. Your partner shouldn't look or sound unhappy about doing something. And S, specific. Your partner agreeing to do one thing does not mean they have consented to other things. You need to check in with your partner before going further. We asked youth, what does consent mean to you? Here's their response.
So the next question is, what does consent look like to me? Now, obviously, I don't know everything that there is about consent. I'm hopefully going to be actively learning more and more, as I grow as a person. And I think that's the same for everyone. I don't think there's one person who knows everything there is to know about consent. And I think everyone's boundaries and perspectives on consent is changing. But one thing I do know is that it's not a yes or a no. It's active communication, and you don't communicate with someone about, I do feel comfortable with this once, and then every other thing you feel comfortable with. And this can be with a partner, a friend, family, anything. It's important to keep up with consent and to understand that if you feel uncomfortable about it, it's not because it's a wrong thing to talk about or it's a conversation you shouldn't have. It's probably just because we're not really used to being open about consent because we haven't had much room to talk about it. But it's something extremely important. And I think it's one of the most important things to talk about when we're talking about sexual education, because it can be very harmful for students when they don't understand the depth of consent. And it may be hard for them to understand situations where they may have not gotten that, or they haven't given that. Thank you. And thank you.
When having these conversations, it is important for young people to understand that asking for consent is a crucial component of showing respect for their partner as well as themselves. It may be helpful to discuss how clear and direct communication is an essential component for positive relationships and leads to trust building, developing healthy and strong boundaries, and fostering respect. It may also be helpful to discuss different situations where consent could be present and make sure to emphasize that it is necessary in both sexual and non-sexual encounters. Framing consent as an active process can help establish that consent is not a single instance, but rather a process that requires regular and consistent communication and checking in with yourself and your partner to make sure that everyone involved feels comfortable and safe. Here are some strategies that you can use to teach consent. The first thing being initiate the conversation. Begin by asking students what they know about consent and what it means to them. Provide a clear definition. Consent is an agreement to engage in an activity and occurs when you ask or give permission to do something. Consent is used and should be used within daily life interactions and activities, such as asking for food or drinks, taking a picture and posting it on social media, physical touching, or participating in an activity. Use real-life scenarios. Use scenarios that illustrate the importance of communication, respect, and boundaries. You can encourage students to share their own examples and discuss them in small groups. Role-playing exercises. You can have students role-play the scenarios they come up with to practice their communication skills. And finally, emphasize respect throughout. Continue to mention the importance of respecting another person's boundaries and maintaining our own boundaries. Try the practice saying no activity found in the supplementary PDF guide. As mentioned in the supporting student health guide, it is important to consider how you can create a space where you model the language and attitude of consent and build a culture of consent. But what is consent culture? Consent culture prioritizes respecting communication in all interactions, including romantic and sexual relationships. Normalizing conversations in your class about respecting the bodily autonomy of other people can help build a culture of consent within your classroom. A great example of being a leader in consent culture is when students ask to use the washroom. While it can be potentially disruptive for students to be moving around during classes, denying a student the ability to go to the washroom or meeting other bodily needs does not advocate for bodily autonomy. When you trust students and give them the freedom to meet their needs, you also expect that students will make good choices and not abuse this right. So here are some strategies to help teach bodily autonomy. First is to discuss what bodily autonomy means. Allow students the chance to say what bodily autonomy means to them, and then provide a definition. Bodily autonomy is the right to make decisions regarding your own body without influence or coercion from other people. Emphasize consent and boundaries. Reiterate the importance of knowing your boundaries in physical and non-physical scenarios. You can use the will, won't, want activity in this discussion, found in the supplementary PDF guide. Encourage self-advocacy. Allow students the ability to practice saying no and emphasize the importance of staying true to yourself and what you're comfortable with. Provide real-life examples. Provide situations outside of sex where students practice saying no, advocating for themselves, and establishing boundaries. Everyday situations like respecting if a friend doesn't want to share food or doesn't want their picture taken are good examples. When discussing consent, it is also important to acknowledge the roles that power and coercion play. Students may be involved in situations where consent cannot be given. Outlining that consent can only be established in a relationship that is equal and free from coercive acts and power imbalances can highlight how consent is more than no means no. Power imbalances can be subtle and are not always obvious. Offering some real-world examples of different power imbalances, such as student-teacher, student-coach, student-tutor, employee-supervisor, can allow students the opportunity to make connections within their own lives. Some commonly used forms of coercion include pressuring, repeatedly asking someone until they say yes, threatening, I will break up with you if you don't have sex with me, intimidating, smashing something when someone says no, blackmailing, if you don't have sex with me, I'll share those pictures you sent me, and guilt tripping. If you really loved me, you would have sex with me. Check out some tools in the supplementary PDF guide to explore communication further. As we begin to have discussions about consent, we can also begin to recognize that asking for and giving consent can be a difficult and uncomfortable thing to do. Emphasizing to students that it can be hard to put yourself out there and risk rejection can validate any feelings of fear they may have and normalize discomfort as a learning tool. However, consent is still a necessary part of building healthy and positive relationships in everyone's life. It can be helpful to outline that when anyone is asking for consent, they're being vulnerable and oftentimes going out of their comfort zone. Not receiving consent can sometimes make people feel bad, like being rejected, particularly when there is positive intent behind a request. We can help students develop the skills they need to navigate these difficult moments and the feelings that accompany them by emphasizing the importance of empathy and understanding and resilience. You can remind students that when someone communicates their boundaries, we must respect them. Even though it's not always easy to hear no, it's essential to respond in a respectful and supportive manner. To make it easier for students, you can break down their response into 3 parts. Number 1, acknowledge your feelings and the other person's feelings. Number 2, accept their decision and adjust expectations. And number 3, Take care of yourself by finding support from friends or family. As always, check out the supplementary PDF guide for more tables to understand if consent is present. Thank you for listening, and see you in the next video.